On June 6, 2026, I started to post 100 Herzl artifacts in 100 days on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. I called it the hashtag Herzl100. In this video, you will see items 79 to 70 as we count down to number 1. You can see more about Herzl on my website, www.herzlcollection.com. Enjoy. What I'm holding is a large advertisement for the purchase of shekels. Shekels in this context were membership in the World Zionist Organization in your local country, and the word shekel comes from the biblical currency that we read about in the Bible. This particular advertisement is from St. Petersburg, then called Petrograd, and it's from 1919. And it's in the middle is a picture, of course, of Herzl, the founder of the Zionist movement, and it says the 22nd anniversary of the creation of the movement. Purchasing shekels was the way to become a member of the World Zionist Organization, and representation in the Zionist Congresses, which were every 1 year or 2 years and interrupted by the First and Second World Wars, were proportionate to the amount of shekel purchasers there were in your country. And this is an indication of how democratic and proportional the Zionist movement was, and how its ideas spread far and wide, as far as Petrograd, now St. Petersburg, but also to the United States, Canada, countries in South America, Europe, Northern Africa, and the Mideast. That is how far and wide Herzl's dream, his vision, and his organization spread as the work to create the Jewish homeland, the State of Israel, continued after his death in 1904 until it was proclaimed in 1948. What I am holding is a Honus Wagner of Herzl cards. It's an autographed picture of Herzl. It is roughly the size of, but a little larger than a baseball card. It's signed by Herzl, London, 1898. And it is a cabinet card, meaning it was on a piece of cardboard that could stand up in a cabinet. And the photographer was the imperial photographer in Vienna, a person named J. Loewy. Now, these were very valuable pieces to have Herzl autograph his own picture, and they were cherished and passed on from generation to generation. This particular one says on the back, Portrait of Theodore Herzl autograph given by him to my uncle, Marvin Jacobs, in London in October 1898. So this belonged to the nephew of Marvin Jacobs and ultimately was saved in the family and found its way to me. A very special, unique, high quality. If it was PSA rated, it would have a very high rating. Look at the corners, look at the autograph. And this is a very cherished piece, as I say, a Honus Wagner of Herzl. What I'm holding is the pin that was handed out to delegates at the First Zionist Congress, which was convened by Herzl and held in Basel, Switzerland in 1897. The pin has the Star of David that Herzl envisioned for the flag of the Jewish state to be. It has the Lion of Judah in the middle and 7 stars, 1 little star in each of the 6 triangles and another star up top. And that was symbolic of the 7-hour workday that Herzl envisioned for this progressive, idealistic, utopian society, which was the Jewish state to be. Herzl was trying to solve for anti-Semitism. The Jewish state was going to be a solution to anti-Semitism, but he also envisioned that it would benefit the world, not just the Arabs who lived in the area, but he thought that they would benefit too, but that through innovation, through technology, through sending people out from the Jewish state to help in the event of an earthquake or other tragedy. That is what Herzl thought the Jewish state would be, and in certain respects, the state of Israel is that. This pen is a reminder of the origins of the Zionist movement and the aspirations that we still have for the Jewish state to ultimately, somehow, live in peace with its neighbors, be a credit to the entire world, that would truly be the completion of Herzl's vision. What I'm holding is perhaps the greatest example of Herzl being a pitchman for Shiatsu in existence. This is from 2008, and you see Herzl on the balcony, evoking the balcony in Basel, Switzerland, where the famous picture of him was taken, and he is saying, Kol Am Yisrael al Hagav Shali, all of the nation of Israel is on my back. And the little boy says, Az Kedai Shetaseh Shiatsu. So it's worth you trying Shiatsu. So obviously this is a bit of a joke by using Herzl as the pitch person, but it gives rise to some interesting questions. Because when Herzl says, all of the nation of Israel is on my back, does that mean everyone is complaining to him? Because the Jewish people can be that way sometime. And there were very many people in Herzl's lifetime who were very critical of his plans, who didn't like the way he was doing it. Should the state be more religious? Should it be cultural? Should we explore a territory in Uganda? Should it only be in the land of Israel? Various opinions. So everyone was on his back. But another way to look at this is the pressure that he felt. The future of the Jewish people lay on his back. Herzl understood that the Jewish people were in danger. He was told by his doctor, slow down, you're a sickly person. If you don't slow down, you are going to die at your desk. And Herzl said, I have too much to do and not enough time, so I will continue to work. And actually he died at 44 years old, which even in 1904 was a young age to die. So he felt the pressure. He was trying to solve for anti-Semitism. And obviously, any position of leadership, especially for the Jewish people, comes with a lot of pressure, a lot of different opinions. But Herzl was able to, within 44 years after his death, bring his dream home. What he started was actually created. Is it finished? Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Are there issues that still need to be addressed and resolved? Absolutely. I don't know if Shiatsu will help the Jewish people through these difficult and stressful times, but it's worth a try. But in any event, Herzl, being a Shiatsu pitch person, gives us something to think about. Yes, we have the future of the Jewish people on our back, but that shouldn't stop us from trying to make things better. What I am holding is an exquisite terracotta relief of Theodor Herzl, made by the artist Boris Schatz in Vienna between 1903 and 1905. Schatz moved to Israel, then called Palestine, in 1906 and founded the Bezalel School because his idea was that the Jewish homeland should also create a renaissance of Jewish art and a new Jewish art form. So he founded the Bezalel School, one of the most prominent and preeminent art schools in the world, which exists to this day. This is just a beautiful example, and take a look at the frame that has Herzl on it and the sun shining over the new land. This is one of the most exquisite Herzl pieces in existence, and that's why it's included in the hashtag Herzl100. What I am holding is a delegate card to the first Zionist Congress, which was convened by Herzl and held in Basel, Switzerland in August of 1897. And this particular card belonged to the delegate Heinrich Lowy. And what's important about this card is look at the imagery. This is a farmer planting land in the land of Israel. And this was at a time where Jews in many countries were not able to buy land because of anti-Semitic rules. And on the other side, Jews praying by the Western Wall. This was a remnant of the Holy Temple that was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD and signifies the return of the Jewish people to their ancestral homeland, even though Jews had been living without interruption in that land for the interim 2,000 years. And in small print at the bottom, Herzl is instructing all the delegates to wear the equivalent of a tuxedo to the Congress. Herzl insisted that everyone who attended wear a tuxedo. And this is because Herzl wanted to show that the Jewish people were doing serious and important diplomatic business, and also that Jews, regardless of where you came from, you look the same. We are uniform. We are one people, and we are entitled to our own country. There were 13 women who were in attendance at the Congress. They were observers at the first Congress, but by the second Congress in 1898, women were equal voting members with men, which was almost unprecedented at the time. The only country in the world that allowed women to have equal voting rights in 1898 was New Zealand. So Zionism, as conceived by Herzl, was a progressive equal rights movement starting with the Zionist congresses. And this is just an exquisite example of the iconography used to portray Herzl's vision for the Jewish state, and it symbolizes the organization, the structure, the planning that went into this Congress and the other 21 Zionist congresses that were held prior to Israel's independence in 1948. What I am holding is the program to the mass memorial meeting held on July 17th, 1904, to memorialize Theodor Herzl, who died in Austria just 2 weeks prior to this meeting. He died on July 3rd, 1904. And it's amazing to think that Carnegie Hall was filled, and based on newspaper reporting, 2,000 people spilled out onto the street. This is the program of what transpired with a picture of Herzl. It shows how important Herzl was and how his loss was such a national tragedy for the Jewish people. The ceremony ended with the singing of the Hatikva. These are the lyrics of the Hatikva on the back of the program. The Hatikva was the Zionist anthem, which was adopted as the anthem of the State of Israel after Israel was proclaimed. And in this anthem, Hatikva, the hope, we sing, Od lo avda tikvatenu. We have not yet lost our hope to return to our ancestral homeland, to live freely and safely in the State of Israel, what became the State of Israel, in the land of Israel. And this was a dream of 2,000 years. And in those 2,000 years, Jews and dribs and drabs continued to live in that land and return to that land. But Herzl's idea was that there should be a Jewish state. Tragically, he died at the age of 44. But 44 years later, his dream was realized. The State of Israel was proclaimed. But his dream has not yet been completed, because Herzl dreamed that the Jewish state would live safely, securely, peacefully with its neighbors, and that the Jewish state would inure to the benefit not just of the Jewish people, but of the residents of the area and people around the world. So that remains a work in progress, but there has been a long time since this memorial meeting, and there is still a long way to go to realize and complete Herzl's dream. What I am holding is a Keren Hayesod sacrifice bond certificate issued in 1922, reflecting a donation of $50 to the Keren Hayesod, then called the Palestine Foundation Fund. It's now the UIA, the United Israel Appeal. The Keren Hayesod was founded in 1920, and various Zionist luminaries participated in fundraising for it, including Chaim Weizmann, Zev Jabotinsky, and Albert Einstein. And funds raised by the Keren Hayesod in its early days went to found the Palestine Philharmonic, now the Israel Philharmonic, bring immigrants to the country, build towns, and help with the absorption of immigrants, work that the Keren Hayesod continues to this day. Now, this certificate, of course, has a portrait of Herzl on top of it. And some of the fine print is quite interesting, because it says essentially it's more sacrifice than bond. You're not going to get your money back, but this investment is made for the Jewish people. To the investor, it will yield no return in money. This investment will confirm the historic association of Israel and Palestine, begun in the time of the patriarchs, affirmed by Moses, sung by David, renewed by the prophets, kept alive amidst medieval persecutions, recognized publicly and legally in our day by the Balfour Declaration of the British government, and endorsed by the nations of the world. So that's a pretty hefty responsibility for the Keren Hayesod in issuing this certificate and in fundraising for the upbuilding of the Jewish state to be. This is a very important indication of the fundraising, the sacrifice that Jews from around the world made in order to put the land of Israel in a position to be declared a state after the United Nations Partition Resolution of November 29, 1947, which ended the British Mandate and set the table for David Ben-Gurion to proclaim the state of Israel in existence, fulfilling the dream of Theodor Herzl and arising from the sacrifice of Jewish people from around the world and the continued sacrifice of people to realize Herzl's dream of a Jewish people living in peace, safely, and in harmony with its neighbors. What I am holding is an early edition of the book Altneuland, Old New Land, which was written by Theodor Herzl in 1902. The book describes Herzl's vision of the new society, the Jewish state to be, which was progressive, had a 7-hour workday, free education through to university, free health care for everyone. Children in school wore uniforms, so no one would know who is a child of a rich family or poor family. Real estate, homes, returned to the society and were reallocated every 50 years, like the Jubilee year in the Bible. And it also envisioned a thriving democracy and equal rights for everyone, Jews and non-Jews. And in fact, the Arab community in the new society was welcoming of the Jewish immigrants who came to build this land because it benefited everyone. And in this book, Herzl also describes that after the addressing the issues of the Jewish people, he will turn his mind to helping other people, in this case, Black people, who were the subject of slavery and persecution, because, as Herzl said, the Jewish people are uniquely able to understand what that is like, and we're uniquely able to help. This particular volume has Moses on the cover, looking forward into the Holy Land. Moses took the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt to the Promised Land, and this is analogous to what Herzl was trying to do. Free the Jewish people from prejudice and persecution and take them to the land of Israel, the Promised Land. Both Moses and Herzl didn't live to see the fulfillment of their dream, but Herzl remains critical because 44 years after his death, his vision was realized, and the Jewish people, after 2,000 years of wanting and longing, returned to the land of Israel and created a modern democratic state there. Yes, it has its problems. Yes, there are challenges, but Herzl will teach us that you can overcome the challenges if you want it badly enough. Altneuland, when it was translated into Hebrew, was translated as Tel Aviv. The city of Tel Aviv, founded in 1909, 7 years after this book was published, was named after Herzl. And this is a living legacy to this great man Herzl and his vision. What I am holding is a pristine example of a Zionist all-star card issued by the Hebrew Publishing Company of New York in 1910. This is card 64 out of a series of 116 postcards. And why do I say this is an all-star card? In the middle is Theodor Herzl, and in the various triangles around, there's Nahum Birnbaum, who developed the name Zionism, Max Nordau, Herzl's partner and a physician, Israel Zangwill, the famous English author, David Wolfson, who was Herzl's successor, Menachem Yusishkin, who was very prominent in the Jewish National Fund, and Nahum Sokolov, who was a prominent Zionist and was the one who translated Herzl's book Altneuland into the word Tel Aviv. And what's of interest in this card is the United States flag and the Zionist flag side by side. The Zionist flag later became the flag of the State of Israel. And this signifies the allyship, the kinship, the spiritual connection between the United States and Zionism, and then later the State of Israel, as a democratic country, one aspiring towards a better future, freedom, and liberty. That was the notion of Zionism as developed by Theodor Herzl, and that's why this beautiful card is one of the hashtag Herzl 100.